Alright guys, so today we're going to be taking a look at the Medicom toy MAFEX Spider-Man No Way Home Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, or just Raimi Spidey for short. And we'll be comparing it to the only other Raimi Spider-Man figure that matters, the S.H.Figuarts Spider-Man No Way Home Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Just joking guys, Legends is great too, I just don't have that figure. So, like I was saying, it'll be a good chance to go back and see if everything I enjoyed about that figure still holds true and compare him with this shiny new bit of plastic joy. But before we go any further, if you enjoyed this video at any point, help us out by hitting that like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already. But here it is, Medicom toy MAFEX Spider-Man No Way Home Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man versus S.H.Figuarts Spider-Man No Way Home Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Let's do it. Alright, so first up, the proportions. In terms of height, both figures are pretty much the same. Head to head, shoulder to shoulder. Even the crotch area is pretty much at the same level. When you line them up against other web heads, he's a little shorter than the S.H.Figuarts Andrew Garfield Spider-Man and the MAFEX comic book Spidey too. As far as build, I think the MAFEX looks more like his younger self from the original Raimi Spider-Man movies. The muscles are more noticeable with the MAFEX, whereas the Figuarts looks a little bit less buff. The shoulders are rounder, the pecs and the abs are more well defined, and the legs have definition to them. So if you want a Raimi Spider-Man 2 figure, this might be the one. But in terms of accuracy to the No Way Home appearance, the Figuarts looks like a more aged Peter, still athletic, but not as toned as the younger looking MAFEX body. Speaking of ass, I do like the simpler, cleaner crotch area for the MAFEX better than the Figuarts. It's a little less complicated and makes for a better silhouette. The crotch piece is also made of a much softer plastic, so you do get a deeper crouch with the MAFEX, which I will show off a little bit later in the video. The lower red web section around the waist is also slimmer, and for the first time in MAFEX Spider-Man history, they finally sculpted that red web pattern you see on the crotch actually on the crotch piece, so it doesn't get hidden when you crouch forward or back like the comic book version does. For the costume, we get raised sculpted webbing and that gridded pattern all over the body for both figures, but I will say the detailing is a lot sharper on the Figuarts. The MAFEX sculpting is there, but the gridded pattern is a little washed out and not as defined as the Figuarts. Also, the painted web lines are unfortunately a little bit sloppy on some of the areas compared to the Figuarts, which is pretty much flawless. It's not terrible, but when you pair that with the soft details, it's not the best look either. So I do have to give it to Figuarts in terms of attention to detail. The spider logo in front of the MAFEX is slightly larger than the Figuarts, but the back spider logo is pretty much the same. In terms of color palette, the blues and reds are a little bit more saturated on the MAFEX compared to the Figuarts, which has a more muted blue and red color. The gunmetal grays for the webbing are also a little bit brighter. We do, however, get some shading on the chest and ab areas of the costume, something that the Figuarts lacks. Also, the elbow joints for the MAFEX have both red on the outside and blue on the inside to match the costume. They've even sculpted some webbing on there, which is nice. Again, something that the Figuarts lacks. For the finish, the MAFEX does have a satin sheen to it. Is it blindingly shiny? No, but it does reflect a lot more light if you have it facing direct lighting. Again, it's not terrible, but again, couple that with the sloppy paintwork, the soft details, and it's starting to look a lot less like a premium collectible and more like a toy, I guess. So I gotta hand it to Figuarts on this one again. The matte finish is just a lot nicer on the eyes. The head sculpts are pretty similar. The web pattern has the same spacing between them, but the lenses on the MAFEX are a little bit more prominent and have a deeper sculpt than the Figuarts, which is funny because the rest of the details aren't as refined. For the MAFEX, the iframes are the same gunmetal silver as the webbing on the rest of the suit, with lighter silver for the lenses, whereas the Figuarts has black frames with pearly white lenses. For the unmasked heads, we get two options with both MAFEX and the Figuarts, a neutral Peter Parker stare and a happy smiling option as well. The Figuarts is okay, the likeness is there, but it's not perfect. In terms of facial details, the printing is a little bit grainy and not as sharp as I'd like it to be. The hair is also only really one shade of brown, so it does look a little bit flat. The MAFEX, however, while still having just a flat color for the hair, no highlights, the facial features are a lot sharper and I think captures the actor likeness a lot better than the Figuarts. It's not perfect, but I do think the MAFEX looks better here. Alright, so let's jump right into the articulation. Yes, we do have two figures here, but we're going to be mainly looking at the MAFEX because essentially both of these figures have great articulation. It's similar in their range. They have similar, articulation in similar areas, but I will be pointing out the differences between the two of these figures when I get to them, because there are a couple of key differences between both of these figures that I will show you guys. But essentially, they have all the articulation you would need for a Spider-Man figure. They're both really, really well articulated, and you can get them to do all the Spider-Man type of things that you would want. Wall crawling, web swinging, flipping, and your all-important 4-point crouch. So we're going to start off with the MAFEX, but guys, if you do want to see the full articulation for the S.H.Figuarts Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, I will have the link to that full review in the description, or I guess, popping up on the screen right now. So first up, let's have a look at the head. You get a really, really good range going up, and it's, pretty similar with the Figuarts. Really good range going down. You have side to side head tilt, and of course rotation there as well. So again, the head and the neck are independent pieces, so you're going to get really good range. For the arms, the MAFEX gets about 90 degrees, which is similar to the Figuarts. But the biggest difference between the MAFEX and the Figuarts is with the butterfly joints. Just look at how much range you get with the MAFEX compared to the Figuarts. The Figuarts isn't bad, and you can get him to, for example, hold a web line with both hands, but that's as far as you can go. It kind of springs back after that. Same with going back. It's not the best going back either. But with the MAFEX, just look at that amazing range with the butterfly joints. So really good articulation range there with the shoulders, butterfly joints. You get 360 rotation, a bicep swivel, double elbows, and I will show you the range between both of these guys. Double elbows is about the same as well. And of course, you do get your swivel and hinge there at the wrist. I will say this though, the MAFEX does hide the wrist joints a lot better than the S.H.Figuarts, which I do like. For ab articulation, crunch going forward for the MAFEX, crunch going forward for the Figuarts. Again, it's very similar, but the biggest difference is that you get a gap here at the bottom and at the top. And you do get a little bit of a gap here with the Figuarts as well, but I do like how they've hidden the gap here with an extra piece down at the bottom there of his lower back. So that is a nice little feature. Both of the spider logos at the back, they do extend right up to the lower back. So it is kind of an extension when you have Spider-Man crouching forward, which is great. Bending back. You do get a little bit more range, a tiny bit more range with the MAFEX, but again, you do get the gap at the front and the back. Another big difference is with the crotch piece here. It is a much softer plastic. So you do get a really great forward kick compared to the Figuarts, which is a harder plastic for the crotch. So that is a huge difference. And I'll show you a 4-point crouch with both of these figures later, and you can see the difference between how natural both of these figures does a 4-point crouch. So great forward kicking action. And of course, you do get side to side, a swivel there at the waist, and you do get some swivel there at the upper torso as well. With the Figuarts, it's the same great all-round articulation at the upper waist, but at the lower waist it is a little bit limited. So most of your movement is going to be at the upper torso. For legs, you do get better range with the MAFEX going out. And again, like I said, going back and forth. The Figuarts does kick back a lot more, so I guess that does kind of make up for it. But it really is that forward kicking action, that forward kicking movement that's going to get you a better crouch. You do have drop down legs with the MAFEX, but the Figuarts is fixed. There is a hidden thigh cut here with the MAFEX. Double knees, really good range. Double knees. There is no boot cut with either figure, but you do have a rotation there. At the ankle, the foot kicks up, the foot kicks down or moves down. You do have a toe hinge, and you do have really good ankle pivot. Alright guys, so here is the all-important Spider-Man 4-point crouch. And you can see here on the left and the right. On the left we have the Figuarts, on the right we have the MAFEX. And both of them can do the 4-point crouch really well. Both look great, but you can see the key differences are with the legs. On the left with the Figuarts, that's as far as the legs, the thighs can go up before it hits, you know, that belt piece here. And it still looks good. It still looks great. But we compare it to the MAFEX. The MAFEX, because it has that soft plastic crouch, and it does look a little bit ugly at the back here, but you know, on the front, on the side, you can see the legs move up a lot more. You know, it's just more dynamic. It looks, you know, I guess more like a dynamic Spider-Man. And of course you can lower the legs and bring it down to the same level as the Figuarts, but I'm just showing you guys how far you can actually go up with that crotch piece there. You know, this guy has really good hips, you know. Also, you can see here with the arms, that's as far as the arms can naturally come down and forward with the Figuarts, and it doesn't look bad. It looks good, you know. It looks like he's, you know, ready for action. But with the MAFEX, you can bring the hands, the arms, and cross them over, so you get, I guess, more options in terms of, you know, the way that you want to adjust or position your 4-point crouch. So again, yeah, you can, you know, spread them out just like the Figuarts, but you also have the option of bringing those hands in together as well for, I guess, just a different looking 4-point crouch. So both of these figures, again, have really good articulation and they can do everything you would want for a Spider-Man, but the MAFEX definitely has more range, and it is with those two key differences with the butterfly joints, which have amazing range, and that rubber pelvis there. So for me, I think the MAFEX takes the cake with the articulation. Alright, so for accessories, you can see by the spread that it's not even a comparison. MAFEX has way more accessories than the Figuarts. Is that always a good thing? No, because I don't really care for the portal effect, Sandman cure device, and the clear plastic display stand. And if that means I could save a couple of bucks without those accessories, I definitely would have opted for that choice. But that's just me. So let's go over the hands first, shall we? We get a pair of Rock'em Sock'em fists, a set of wall-crawling hands, a pair of Spider-Man flipping hands, some web line holding or web swinging hands, a set of hands to hold Peter's unmasked mask. I think I like the MAFEX a little more, and look at those web lines, they just look so much cleaner. Why couldn't they paint them this clean with the rest of the suit? Anyway, and of course, your Spider-Man meme hands. And that's it for Figuarts in terms of hands, but with MAFEX we get a couple more, including your Sandman cure device holding hands, complete with Sandman cure device itself. Not much to be said here, but if you wanted to recreate that last fight scene on top of the Statue of Liberty, here you go. But we also get probably my favorite set of hands that you absolutely have to have with any Raimi Spider-Man figure.
No playing in the streets.
Yes, Mr. Spider-Man.
See ya.
And just like every other MAFEX Spider-Man release, we also get some magnetic wall-crawling feet and magnetic wall-crawling hands. For web effects, we get a pair of long web lines for those web lining holding hands, a pair of medium web effects to go over your wrist for some web thwipping action, and a couple of short web effects as well. And here we have the portal effect piece, because I guess this is a No Way Home release. Last but not least, we get your standard clear MAFEX display stand, which I never use, so... First up, let's talk about price, because there is kind of a significant difference between the two. On the left, we have the S.H.Figuarts retailing when it first released for about 90 bucks or 9,000 yen from import sites. It was a premium Bandai exclusive and still maintains that $90 to $100-ish price tag on the aftermarket, whereas the MAFEX comes in at about 120 or 12,000 yen if you're buying it from an import retailer. That's a pretty big $20 to $30 difference even for an import, and I think most import collectors already expect an import figure to be close to or under $100, but once you go over that $100 price mark, that pill starts to look a little bit harder to swallow than it usually does. And once you've taken that into account, like I expected, there really isn't a clear winner here. I mean, neither figure is perfect, but they both bring different qualities to the table. For me personally, I think I prefer the overall younger aesthetic of the MAFEX. It's got that Spider-Man 2 look, which just hits home harder for me. I grew up with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man original movies, so naturally I'm going to gravitate towards that more. But if we're talking about No Way Home accuracy, I think Figuarts does it a little bit better. Plus the details are so much nicer. The web lines are cleaner, the grid pattern is sharper, it just looks more like a premium collectible. But then we go over the accessories and MAFEX has the biggest spread and the nicer unmasked head sculpt. You see what I mean? We're just jumping back and forth here. So which do I recommend? Well, I think that really depends on what you're looking for. Objectively speaking, on paper, MAFEX has the advantage, but in terms of execution, I have to give it to the Figuarts. Sure, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles like the MAFEX, but it looks and feels more like a higher end collectible. But again, I do prefer the MAFEX aesthetics, and if you're someone who is okay with those flaws, who really just wants an original trilogy Raimi Spider-Man, then I think MAFEX is the one to go with. Alright guys, that's my thoughts on both of these figures. I hope you enjoyed the comparison review. I hope it was informative. I know comparisons always gets people worked up, so I mean, let's try to keep it respectful and as friendly as possible in the comments. I'll be back with more MAFEX action with Spider-Man 2099 that's dropping tomorrow, and the Figuarts Shanks and Dragon Ball Medical Machine, hopefully this week, or maybe early next week. If not, enjoy your weekend, keep doing those push-ups, and as always,
Yoroshiku!